If you could start. Thank you. So before we begin, I would like to remind everyone of the following information. PropelX is a funding platform. It's not a broker-dealer. A syndicate, if formed, will be managed by Plank Fund Management Corporation, which is a Nevada-registered venture capital firm. Private investments are highly illiquid and risky and are not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not indicative of future results. You should speak with your financial advisor, accountant, and/or attorney when evaluating private offerings. Neither PropelX nor Plank Fund Management nor any of its affiliates makes any recommendations or provides advice about investments. The information you hear today may make forward-looking statements about investments which have not been reviewed by PropelX or Plank Fund Management. You should not rely on these statements, but should carefully evaluate the offering materials in assessing any private investment opportunity. With that, I'm happy to get started. Welcome, John, Catalina, Colin. Thank you for being here. For those that are new, I suppose you're familiar with the PropelX platform. John, I'm just going to take the screen share from you for just a minute so that I can showcase to people how to use the PropelX platform. So please give me a minute while I do that. There we go. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of the PropelX platform if you're not already familiar with it. For those that are just joining, this is the screen that you land on. This is our homepage. When you log in, I'm going to have to do that. Here we go. You're invest in startups, and here we see all the companies that are currently fundraising. Nanostics is right on top. You can go there, review all their materials. They do have a pitch deck there, all of the details of the pitch, some risks, etc. Who's the team? Review all their materials, and if you're interested in investing, you can do that by clicking Pledge Interest. This will take you to the investment page. We take as little as $5,000, and the fees and so on are laid here. So I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to give it back to John. John, please go forth. Thank you so much for taking the time to share more about Nanostics with us today.
Of course. Thank you, Swati. It's a real pleasure to be here today and have the opportunity to share the story of Nanostics. It looks like I'm screen sharing. So I'd love to introduce the team first. So I'm joined today by Catalina Vasquez, our Chief Operating Officer, and Colin Koros, our Chief Commercialization Officer. If I get them to introduce themselves first, and then I'll run into the pitch.
Thanks, John. I'll start. So my name is Catalina Vasquez. I am co-founder and Chief Operating Officer at Nanostics. I started my career as a clinical microbiologist with several years of experience in the clinic. Master's in clinical microbiology, and then I immigrated to Canada where I studied English and have worked with John initially as his grad student, but kept moving up as his lab manager, then managed investigator-initiated clinical trials, and a number of masters after. I ended up being the director and founder of the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiative, which was the group at the University of Alberta that led to the development of this test. And then with John and two other founders, we launched Nanostics in 2017. And then the rest of that, John will tell us the story about it. Nice to meet you, and thank you for coming.
Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Koros. I'm the Chief Commercialization Officer at Nanostics. As far as background goes, I have a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology, and an MBA degree in biotechnology. Prior to joining the team at Nanostics in 2017, I was CEO of a genomics company that we sold to a multinational in 2016. And I'll let John tell you our exciting story.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, so today it's my pleasure to tell you the story of Nanostics Precision Health. So my name is John Lewis. I'm the founder and CEO. I've been passionate about trying to figure out what makes diseases deadly, particularly in oncology and with really a focus on prostate cancer for about 20 years. And the question that Nanostics is addressing, the unmet need that Nanostics is addressing in its products, are an unmet need that I've been focused on for the better part of 2 decades. I currently hold an endowed chair position in translational oncology at the University of Alberta, but I've been an active entrepreneur for many years. And it was really this passion for trying to figure out, for cancer, why cancers, certain cancers can be so deadly and some can't, and how, patients really aren't currently served well by the screening and diagnosis technologies that really started as an idea, working with physicians and members of my lab, migrated to developing the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiative, where we recognized that screening and diagnosis of multiple cancers was deficient, but that we needed a lot of data to try to answer those questions. So with the help of Catalina, we set up the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiative and recruited over 15,000 men and collected their data to build our first commercialized test at Nanostics, ClarityDX Prostate. So we've heard a lot about diagnosis of disease, and generally you think for cancer, early detection is better. But that's actually not quite true, because there's nothing worse than knowing that you have a disease and having absolutely no way to treat it. And actually many cancers, and I'll be talking a lot about prostate cancer today, many cancers, really, a lot of the treatments for these cancers can be pretty significant. So surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and they can have significant impacts on quality of life, and maybe not on survivability. So we focused, better part of 20 years in my academic lab on trying to figure out, which cancers are most likely to have a mortality impact on the individual, which cancers are most likely to kill you, and then being able to recognize those and so that we can direct, life-saving treatments to those people. Because the issue with early detection and overdiagnosis is that, there's a lot of tests. Some of them are very invasive, as I'll get into. The treatments for some of these cancers can significantly reduce quality of life, obviously increase healthcare costs. And so, what's important isn't early diagnosis, but it's precision diagnosis. And so Nanostics has developed a platform called ClarityDX and ClarityML that combine biomarkers and machine learning to not only identify the risk of disease, but to rule out further testing and treatments, and to prioritize those life-saving treatments for those that really need it. And so we've developed two platforms to address this market. We have platform technologies that generate highly accurate disease fingerprints that substantially improve the decision-making around whether to get more testing and treatment or significant treatments. ClarityML is an AI-driven software as a medical device. This is a completely new and transformative market that is integrating, all we've learned in AI and machine learning with, massive data sets. And really the goal here is to slot very, very smoothly into the current standard of care by using standard of care biomarkers, but integrating the breadth and wealth of data available in the EMR or that is reported by patients to dramatically improve our ability to predict, who needs more testing and treatment. Nanostics also has developed a proprietary ClarityDX platform that is a completely novel way of doing in vitro diagnostics. It uses a biomarker or a source of biomarkers that's ready available in every biofluid, so blood, urine, interstitial fluid. They're called extracellular vesicles, or EVs. They're basically little tiny pieces of cells that are released from pretty much every cell of the body. But importantly, they're available in the blood, and they allow us to remotely biopsy. For instance, in the blood, we remotely biopsy the prostate or the liver or the brain. And we've developed this proprietary microflow cytometry platform to be able to look at about 5 million of these EVs in a single drop of blood. And we use, again, machine learning to detect and characterize millions of EVs in minutes and integrate this into very, very accurate risk scores for different cancers. So our first product is a software as a medical device, and software as a medical device are completely reshaping the diagnostic landscape. We've all heard about AI and ML, But the opportunity to take all of the wealth of medical data and information and patient-reported information and integrate that into highly accurate predictive tools is just remarkable. And so FDA has seen a lot of these recently, and there's an exponential growth of software as a medical device, particularly in imaging. And now more, we're basically at the forefront of software as a medical device for diagnostic testing for oncology. And the great thing about software as a medical device, it's compared to traditional IVDs that must be done in a single lab and have samples shipped across North America or the world. Software as a medical device is a highly scalable business model. So our lead product, which is a software as a medical device called ClarityDX Prostate, it's a tool that enhances prostate cancer screening significantly by using an optimized machine learning model. And basically integrates some biochemical data with patient-reported data to dramatically improve selection for treatment. And so because it's an AI-powered risk model that combines readily available biomarkers, it's easily implementable within the current system without any investment into new machines or new procedures. And so because of this AI-driven efficiency, it can be rapidly scaled across entire health systems. And so we built these platforms, ClarityDX with a biomarker-driven platform, ClarityDML with software as a medical device. And our lead product, which is on market, is ClarityDX Prostate, that I'll be telling you a little bit more about. We have additional ClarityDML products in development, based on a wealth of data we've been able to access through a number of different databases. And we have our furthest along testing with ClarityDX IVD is a bladder test that is substantially improved compared to the standard of care for predicting clinically significant bladder cancer. But I want to talk a little bit about ClarityDX Prostate. This is a test that we launched last year. It's addressing a significant key unmet need, one that we identified about 20 years ago. And so it's software as a medical device that, as I said, incorporates clinical and readily available biological biomarkers. It's substantially more accurate than the current state-of-the-art standard of care screening test, which is the prostate-specific antigen or PSA test. We have strong, international real-world evidence, and this test is, very, very straightforward to implement, highly scalable, and because of its nature as an ML test, it has a competitive price point, significantly rapid turnaround time, and we have the ability to license this widely through health systems. So what is the clinical unmet need in prostate cancer? So many of us know, and if you don't, men, as they get up to the 45, 50 years old, particularly if they have a family history, have an increased chance of being diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the way we screen is typically through a PSA blood test. So this is a very simple blood test that measures a protein that's supposed to be in the prostate, shouldn't be in the blood. If it's in the blood, something's going on with your prostate. Unfortunately, 85% of the time, your PSA is elevated. It's not cancer, it's something else. But the definitive diagnostic tool for cancer is a pretty invasive procedure, a biopsy, that involves transrectal ultrasound. It involves pressing 12 needles up between the legs, through the tissue, into the prostate to collect tissue. And actually, this procedure itself, beyond being incredibly uncomfortable, also comes with significant, potential side effects, include, infection that can lead to potentially life-threatening sepsis. And most biopsies are either negative or detect what we call indolent or non-clinically significant prostate cancer that would not benefit from treatment. And so clearly we need better non-invasive tests to help refine the prediction of prostate cancer. And so this is where ClarityDX comes in. We've, based on this 15,000 patient prospective study we ran in Alberta as part of the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiative, we were able to identify 2 biomarkers and a number of clinical features that, when integrated into a proprietary machine learning model, allowed us to generate a risk score that predicts the likelihood of the man having clinically significant prostate cancer as good or better than any other test on the market. And so we proved this by doing so we met with the FDA a couple times, we met with Health Canada, we designed a pivotal prospective sort of gold standard trial to basically look at the ability of ClarityDX prostate in men suspected of having prostate cancer to predict the outcome of their biopsy. And the way biopsies are read, so a pathologist reads the biopsy, they have these grade groups, Gleason grade groups. If you have Gleason grade group 2 or higher, you want more treatment. You want more diagnostic tools. You probably want a biopsy, and you may want to go forward to treatment. But if you don't have grade group 2 or above, then you don't need that. And so we created 4 software as a medical device models that use slightly different information. So prostate cancer screening, in addition to PSA, sometimes the family doctor, urologist will do a digital rectal exam. Most people don't like these, so we created models with and without DRE. Another factor is that imaging, like MRI, is being used more and more to diagnose and stage prostate cancer. So we created models that can include MRI data if it's available. But I'll make the point that the ClarityDX prostate model does not need the digital rectal exam results and does not need MRI. And so there's optionality around using those. And what we found in this prospective study is that, so without MRI, we were 3 times better than PSA alone at predicting clinically significant prostate cancer. And with MRI, we were 4 times better. So this is a huge bump up in accuracy. And in fact, with the implementation of ClarityDX prostate in sort of this population of men suspected of prostate cancer, we could avoid up to 47% of unnecessary biopsies. This is a complete game changer for screening for prostate cancer. And so these studies have been published now. Nature Digital Medicine for the first study that didn't include MRI. We have a Lancet preprint that's under review right now for the work involving the MRI. And again, this is a multi-site prospective study. UCLA, Johns Hopkins, groups throughout Alberta, and even a group in Europe, in the Czech Republic, participated as well. So how will this change prostate cancer screening? Again, we're proposing, and the way we ran the prospective study was to incorporate seamlessly into the current workflow for diagnosis of prostate cancer. So men will still present at their family doctors through routine screening, get a PSA test. If they have an elevated PSA level, they'll automatically get ClarityDX prostate as a reflex test. Now, normally, the PSA test can be somewhat variable. So typically after a high PSA, the family doctor will order a second PSA. But instead, they'll order ClarityDX prostate, which will add in free PSA plus these clinical features to dramatically improve the detection of clinically significant prostate cancer, driving the next decision-making. Do I get a multi-parametric MRI or do I go directly to biopsy? Again, with this workflow, we could avoid an estimated 47% of unnecessary prostate biopsies. So again, this has been the PSA has been around since the mid-'80s. We've known for a while that there's an unmet need to have additional tests. So we do have competitors in the market. The PHI, prostate health index test, is a blood test, but it's significantly less accurate than ClarityDX prostate. Exosome DX has a urine test that's significantly less accurate than ClarityDX prostate, also requires urology visit and collection of urine. The 4K score is probably our closest competitor. This is a blood test, but again, the blood needs to be shipped across the country to their lab and shipped back. It can take up to a week to get the results. ClarityDX prostate can be run in a matter of seconds. And in our prospective study with ClarityDX prostate, we were as good or better than the 4K score predicting clinically significant prostate cancer. So we've already validated the test in this prospective study, and we've launched the test. We've begun to launch the test last year, first in Canada, most recently in the US. The path to commercialization for diagnostics is relatively straightforward, but it takes time and effort. We're selling initially as a lab-developed test, LDT, both in Canada and the US. So this is our short-term, low-scale private pay strategy. And this is basically, so the way the test runs is we have servers running in each of the countries where we're doing the test. This will receive data from the family doctor or the lab doing the test, and we process the test in country and send the results back, within a few seconds to the orderer. And so we have a CPSA, so in a fully accredited lab in Canada. We have agreements for sample collection across Canada. We're receiving samples, from all the provinces of Canada, and running those. We have recently initiated LDT license sales in the U.S. We have a partnership with a CLIA lab in the U.S., also in the Middle East and Latin America. Again, these are patient pay private sales, and we are making agreements for PSA testing across North America. And the goal here, for any diagnostic test, to basically build up and soft launch our infrastructure and work out the bugs and be able to scale quickly through these LDT sales. But really, the long-term goal is reimbursement and FDA approval. As I mentioned, we've met FDA twice already. We have a clear idea of exactly what they need. They love the test. They recognize the key unmet need in this market, and they gave us key feedback and mainly around incorporation of representative demographic in the U.S. to make sure that our test gets FDA approved when we apply for that in the next few months. So we've worked on so the other part. So FDA approval is also is obviously really important, but reimbursement from healthcare systems in Canada and the U.S. is really key to us driving the full value of this test. And so this, use of funds will be to go after both FDA approval and reimbursement, and looking at potential other novel verticals as well. So software as a medical device products have an opportunity to sell into new marketplaces that have been generated, AI marketplaces by many of the large healthcare companies in the world, Microsoft, GE, Siemens, Philips, Roche, and even EMR providers like Epic. So we're sort of been talking to these entities over the years as we develop the test, and we see a huge potential market in selling through these marketplaces. So ClarityDX is we've been able to execute the development, the validation, and now the commercial launch of ClarityDX in an extremely capital efficient manner, leveraging significantly the Translational Oncology Lab at the University of Alberta. We've raised to date $6 million in equity funding, about $4.5 million in non-dilutive direct grants to Nanostics. We've leveraged, probably $20 or $30 million of work through the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiative, and of course built both a national and international network of KOLs that have, been involved in both the development of the test, the validation of the test, and now thinking about using the test in their practices. So ClarityDX Prostate again is on the market as an LDT in Canada and the US. We have engaged, for instance, the government in Canada and Alberta to look at reimbursement. So we're working directly with Alberta Health in Alberta to be able to run a clinical utility study. This is basically a real world study of ClarityDX in its intended purpose as a reflex test for PSA in men who are suspected of having prostate cancer, and that data will drive. As a part of this, also we're integrating our test into the medical system in Canada, and the results of this study then can be used to drive reimbursement discussions both throughout Canada and the U.S. So we're raising $5 million now. This is basically to drive these activities for reimbursement and FDA approval, basically bring the, so obviously once we have FDA approval and reimbursement, we can really take full advantage of the market because we have a completely differentiated product and the ability to scale throughout North America very quickly. So you met some of the team, but I'll just add some of the people that you haven't seen. Again, through the Alberta Prostate Cancer Research Initiatives, we've been highly integrated with family doctors and urologists through the province and throughout Canada and the US. And so we have a deep, list of KOLs who have supported us through this journey. But we have some key people on the board. I'll mention just Melina Simler. She helped, so she was at Illumina for many years. basically brought the MySeq to approval. She's Grail's regulatory strategist and board member. She's, a highly respected individual from the regulatory side. Armand Prekian, he's a world-renowned urologist, former president of the Canadian Urology Association, has been a huge help building our network. And then Aubrey Rankin is an entrepreneur investor. He has over 20 years of experience as a CEO, founder, entrepreneur, worked for some of the largest digital health companies in the world. Has been a key help as we have grown. So we're currently raising $5 million in a $5 million US dollars in a safe. And again, this is, as I mentioned, this is going to support the global expansion of ClearDx Prostate and propel 3x the growth year over year with an estimated $150 million in revenue by year 5. And again, if we can get early traction, we can probably beat this as well. And again, this is support our sales strategy, expand our sales and marketing team, reimbursement team, create a billing team, expansion of our IT infrastructure to deploy ClearDx platform globally, which is very, very straightforward. Sort of working with already deployed systems like Amazon Web Services, for instance, throughout the world, and also. So we've been very successful getting non-dilutive funding. We're going to continue that. This is why we're going to be able to achieve these goals just with a $5 million raise. But we've already been successful getting grants to support the clinical utility study, and we expect to be able to really complement investment and leverage investment through this non-dilutive funding as we go forward. Thinking about where the company wants to be, there are other really close comparables. We've been right from the very founding of the company, we've been in constant discussions with potential acquirers, Bio-Techne, Roche, LabCorp, Quest, etc. So there's a good history of exits in this space where companies have been able to execute and get on the market, reimbursement, FDA approval. Probably some recent ones, Personal Genome Diagnostics acquired by LabCorp in 2022 for $575 million. And again, these are typically companies with one commercialized test and maybe a couple more tests in the pipeline, very similar to where we are now. So I'll end it there. Happy to answer any questions anybody has. But we're really excited. Obviously, the team is very excited about changing the way men are screening for prostate cancer and in the future other cancers as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. That was fantastic. I actually have a few questions, and then I see that there's one question on the screen as well. But before I go there, I wanted to ask this question. There was a slide that you showed where, so I want to confirm that, so I think it is the same slide that we're talking about, slide 10, if you don't mind going there. I wanted to understand that I want to make sure that we are using the data that emerges from the PSA test and doing more analysis on it. Or is it some other data that we're also using, adding in external data? So what is the data that we're using to supplement the PSA, basically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's very simple. So men are going in and getting a PSA test, so that measures total PSA, and then they're getting a reflex test, which is ClearDx Prostate. So that repeats their total PSA, adds in free PSA, which is run on exactly the same machine in every lab in the world, and then we add in 3 to 5 clinical features, or 3 or 4 clinical features. So DRE result is optional. So DRE positive or negative. MRI result is optional. And then it's basically age and then previous negative biopsies, yes or no.
And so the Clarity DX Prostate, it's a blood test, right?
So it's a combination of PSA, free PSA, and these 3 to 4 clinical features.
I see. But
and it's running an algorithm then that uses those based on our training to clinically or to predict clinically significant prostate cancer.
So, but I want to make sure that the sample that you're collecting really is only blood, right?
So yes, it's a blood test. Yeah, so exactly the same blood that's taken for a PSA test.
So, but are we now? So, are you saying that we are? So, I want to clarify: are we doubling the blood test because there was a PSA test done, and then there's a Clarity DX Prostate test that is advised. So that's another blood test in addition to the one that was already done, right?
That's correct. So you would typically take a second PSA test anyway. So
Yeah.
this is, instead of just running total PSA, we're running free PSA plus running our algorithm.
Got it. And the information, so the data that you're using is the data from the sample, of course, that you collect, but it is supplemented, or when you're saying that you're using machine learning, I'm guessing that you're using models that you've created through this other data that already pre-exists, right? That you've already collected.
That's correct. Yeah. So we looked at thousands of different potential parameters and refined them down to this very easy to collect, very easy to input data set.
Right. And that data is proprietary, or is it publicly available?
So we ran a prospective trial. We published the study. So all of that is available in our publication in Nature Digital Medicine and hopefully soon in Lancet.
Got it. So there is a question by one of our audience members, Raj. How does Clarity DX for prostate without the MRI compare with just MRI screening alone?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So what we found in our training is that prostate volume is actually a very important parameter, and the MRI collects prostate volume. So without the MRI data, and again, this is in the publication, our AUC I think is about 0.84. So again, as good or better than any other predictive test for prostate cancer, but prostate volume actually adds quite a bit of predictability. So adding the MRI data puts the AUC over 0.9.
So what we're saying is the MRI alone will be the same as this 1, 2, 3, the fourth line, which is purple. It would be
So if you just run MRI and not Clarity DX prostate, it's much worse. So we're significantly better than MRI alone, but significantly better when you add MRI data into the Clarity DX.
Got it. So I think the answer to that question is that Clarity DX alone is better than MRI alone, right?
Correct. Yeah, but having them both is even better. So, and typically what we'll find, with patients already, they'll have their Clarity DX prostate. We'll run the analysis, and then they'll get an MRI and then rerun the analysis.
Understood. And so just following up on this, because it is preceded by the PSA test, which has reimbursement codes. Does Clarity DX have a reimbursement code right now? What code would you function under, and where does that sit with the healthcare system right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're working through that. So the very first step is to apply for a reimbursement code. We've done that. We were awarded our CPT PLA code just about a month ago. It comes into effect April 1st.
Oh, so April 1st, this will be reimbursable by the Canada healthcare system or the US?
No, so this is US. Yeah, so this is a US payer code. So in the Canada healthcare system, obviously it runs differently than the US. Canada healthcare system, we're running this clinical utility study with Alberta Health Services. And as a part of that study, we're integrating Nanostics Clarity DX into the entire province for screening. And then based on the results of that, that'll drive reimbursement decision both in the province and throughout Canada.
Got it. And but if it's going to be reimbursed, it has to be FDA approved, isn't it? So where are we? Is this FDA approved yet? Not yet.
So Canada, maybe you want to, there's some nuance there.
So I can jump in on that one.
Thank you, sir.
So sorry, you do not have to be FDA approved to get reimbursement in the United States. It does help with adoption, and we're going through that process. It definitely helps on a policy level, but it's not a requirement.
So, but let's hold on a minute, because I believe there was this new regulation which said that software which is which is serving as a diagnostic tool has to be FDA approved. I know that some of our other companies have suffered from that. So I'm just trying to understand why it doesn't have to be approved. Is it only for research purposes that you're using it, or?
It's because our initial launch on the market, it is as a laboratory developed test.
That's right.
Which incorporates the total and free PSA, and our algorithm is behind that. So as a laboratory developed test, we do not need FDA.
But
however, we will be going through FDA approval still, and it'll allow us to expand our licensing opportunities.
And so this 5 million safe that you're using, will that be used for any of the FDA approval processes?
Absolutely. So the $5 million safe will get us through and past FDA approval.
And do you need additional patient testing for the FDA approval? Because that alone costs a lot.
And we are supplementing our FDA application with additional data, which we are already have secured, and we're finalizing those last data sets.
I see. So based on the tests that have already been done and the data that has already been collected, you are putting together your FDA application, which means that the 5 million, the use of proceeds is not patient testing, but it's really finalizing the application, among other things.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So there is a question here. How much is expected to be raised through non-dilutive sources in the near future? Are there
Well, that's that's an easy one because we've raised some of it already. So, so as part of the clinical utility study, we've created a number of proposals totaling about 7 million that we've applied to different jurisdictions. So we've applied to a granting agency called Genome Canada. Genome Canada approved the award of 1.25 million. We worked with Alberta Health Services in Alberta to develop the clinical utility study. So, so we're asking for 1.25 million from the Alberta government. We expect an answer from that in the next, hopefully, 48, 72 hours. And then we have a proposal out to Alberta Cancer Foundation, who has been a huge supporter of this right from the very beginning, to basically cover the balance.
So that's 7 million that you've applied for, and you're expecting responses pretty shortly.
Correct. Yeah. So at least 2.5 million of that, I think, will come in the short term, and the balance hopefully over the next 6 months.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That would be 7 million plus the 5 million that you're raising from the SAFE. Got it.
Right.
Just coming back, so I hope that clarifies that question. Just coming back to my last question, because I want to make sure that, so all of this funds and just coming back to the FDA approval process, so it sounds like you have all of the testing and the data ready. Have you had meetings with the FDA that tell you that this data is sufficient, or do you need to have those still?
I feel like Kata needs to answer the question. Go for it.
Yes, so we already have met with the FDA a couple of times, and we're scheduling a new final pre-submission meeting in the next couple of months to finalize exactly what they're expecting from the submission, and then the plan is to submit shortly after that.
And so this will be treated as a class 3 device or class 2?
Class 3.
Class 3. So
Yep.
which means that 90 days after your submission, unless there are other questions, this will be approved. So
That's
you're
right.
expecting the approval to happen in the last quarter of this year, roughly.
Exactly.
Towards the end of the year. So it should be available for commercial use starting next year?
Well, commercially, it's available as early as next month through our partner as a laboratory developed test. But commercially, as a software as a medical device, ideally by 2026, yes.
And do you have for the immediate short term, when it's available as a laboratory use product, your partners are the University of Alberta, is that right? Oh, sorry.
So we're already selling privately as a laboratory developed test across Canada. So we have our own accredited lab here in Alberta. And through that laboratory, we're offering the test through partnerships with other labs across the different provinces. In addition to that, we also have a partner lab in Florida, Protean Biodiagnostics, who will be selling the test on our behalf, if you will. So they will be running the PSA and then incorporating the algorithm on top of that to give the results to doctors and patients.
Got it.
This Protean Biodiagnostics also has partnerships with LabCorp and Quest. So then they could collect the samples and run the PSAs for us, send the results to Protean, then they run the algorithm and give the results to the doctor. So we're thinking with this funding, we will be able to support some sort of sales and marketing campaign to offer the tests across the United States through that partner lab. That is as a laboratory developed test. Now, when we get the FDA approval as a software as a medical device, then what we can do is virtually partner with any lab in the United States for them to offer the test in a model where they gain some financial benefit from doing it. We gain some benefit as well. The healthcare system saves dollars and the patients benefits from the result. And that model we intend to replicate globally.
So which kind of labs conduct these PSA tests today? Is it the Quest Diagnostics of the world?
Right.
So you would
Basically,
partner with
any basic lab, any clinical basic lab has the capacity to run total and free PSA.
right. Have you had any conversations with these prospective distributors so far?
We have connected with Quest Lab and Quest LabCorp and Sonic as well. But we're in conversations with them. We also talked with LabCorp Ventures recently. Those conversations are evolving positively. Having said that, we would like to hold on any deals with any of these labs until we gain more traction, because then that gives us more leverage for negotiation.
Of course. Would you mind sharing how much revenue you have currently through your clinic for the lab test?
Yeah, so the revenue we're getting is quite limited, in part because it is not our strategy to do any sales or marketing like last year when we started selling. Having said that, we're expecting a dramatic increase in sales in the coming months and in the coming year.
Right. So, but your existing revenue is what?
So we've sold over 100 tests in the past few months. But then,
And
as I said, the goal for this year is to increase that 10 times, 20 times or more.
oh, no worries. I mean, I'm not, I mean, at this early stage, nobody invests in your revenue, right? I think it's just a demonstration that there's a willingness that firstly you're focused on the revenue side of things, and then there's a willingness to pay, or there is a market need. So it's just a demonstration of market need. And then what you're saying is that this would be reimbursed. And so how much gets reimbursed per test? Do we know?
So we have different prices depending on the jurisdiction. So for Canada, we're aiming for $300 Canadian. In the United States, because there are other tests in the market with similar accuracy, our reimbursement consultant advised that we aim to get the same price that they're getting, which is $760 US. So that is the starting point for our negotiation.
Right. And how much is the estimated? So what revenues? So you said 125 million. I mean, I was just trying to remember the revenues projected. But we have a large population. I would say about half are men, and half of them are a quarter of the US population might qualify for this test.
That's right. So there are upwards close to 2 million elevated PSAs per year in the United States after the screening process. So the market is remarkably large. And with our software as a medical device model, we believe we will be able to tap into a higher percentage of the market as opposed to our competitors who have a single lab, single test, complex, needing a kit and further processing.
Got it. Well, this is super helpful. Thank you. If there's any other questions, please ask. But outside of that, I think there's one question, John, that has come up, which a couple of people have written to me about, which I will forward to you as well.
Sure.
That is, John, you're managing a number of different companies. So how are you doing that? What is your key focus? I know Ontos Pharma was the kind of the mothership, but I think it's important that we clarify this here.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So obviously, I am absolutely passionate about taking things that we've developed novel solutions for and actually building value and bringing them to patients. And so all of my efforts have really been focused on that. And I mean, as far as leadership roles in the companies, I take a leadership. I mean, I have a lot of experience running companies and building teams, but building teams is really the most important thing. So we built teams in each of these companies that can run without my daily interaction. And so I serve sort of as a guide and step in, in specific situations where I'm needed. But that's how I manage them.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. And this is what we had shared with everyone, but that said, it's helpful to hear directly from you as well. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for the presentation. We'll be following up, and I think everyone knows how to make an investment if they want to. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you, John. Thank you, Catalina. Thank you, Colin. And the recording will be posted, so everyone should have it pretty soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Really
Thank
appreciate the
you.
opportunity. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.